Sleep Hacking with London Real, brought to you by Bulletproof. Learn how to hack your sleep.
I have to be open-minded, and also open-minded to what Rupert says, that I've been trained in this classical scientific way where, I don't even debate the law of conservation of momentum or conservation of energy, because that's what I was taught when I was 8. And it all makes sense. The atom turns into energy via Einstein's principles, and it all makes kind of a perfect world, just like Newtonian science made until Einstein came around. So I'm trying to make myself open-minded to new ideas. So if anything, that's taught me that, as opposed to be so closed, which I'm sure most of the scientific community is very closed to your ideas.
Well, it
and
depends.
It's their livelihood to a certain extent.
It depends if you talk to them in public or in private.
Okay.
In private, there's plenty of people in the scientific community who've taken the psychedelics, who've had psychic experiences, who meditate, who have spiritual practices, who've been to alternative practitioners and so on. In fact, a majority. Recent surveys of the top 10 universities in America showed that a majority of people had spiritual or psychic experiences. But when they're at work, they're all in the closet. They don't talk to their colleagues about it, because they assume that all their colleagues are completely straight, dogmatic, Dawkins-type skeptics. Whereas, in fact, the Dawkins-type skeptics are a minority in science, and yet most people within and outside science have been persuaded that they speak for the majority view.
To what do you attribute that? Why do you think that's the case?
Well, for a variety of historical reasons, the materialist worldview took over the sciences in the late 19th century. It became established as the official philosophy of science. And since then, any deviation from it has been treated as heresy. Okay. In most areas of human endeavor, like literature, the arts, politics, and courts of law, we're used to hearing different sides of the story. In a court of law, you hear the prosecution and the defense, or the plaintiff and the defendant. In politics, if Mr. Cameron says something, then you hear from what Mr. Miliband thinks. So we're used to hearing different points of view, but in science it doesn't work that way. It's based on the idea that science knows the absolute truth, or at least aspires to it. Of course, at any given time, everyone would admit we don't know all of it. And then any deviation from that established view is treated as heresy. It's like a one-party state. And of course, scientific revolutions occur from time to time, and a different worldview gets installed, but then that becomes a one-party state. A scientific revolution is more like a South American military junta, one lot's overthrown, another lot move in, but it doesn't necessarily imply liberalization and democracy and pluralism. So I think in the 19th century there was a kind of a rejection of, it was partly ideologically driven, because there was a strong atheist movement in the 19th century, and that was based, of course, on the 18th century atheist movement, the French Revolution, which said, it was the Enlightenment worldview, basically. We're going to have science and reason, and we're going to reject religion and superstition. And in the French Revolution, they turned the Cathedral of Notre Dame into a temple of reason, and abolished Christianity, or tried to abolish Christianity. So science and reason became allied with anti-Christian or anti-religious views, atheist views, effectively. And it became very hard for scientists by the end of the 19th century to adopt religious, spiritual, or even talk about telepathy or psychic phenomena, because these had all been classified as sort of superstition, and science and reason marched into the vanguard. And of course the Soviet Union was based on those principles. Marxism was supposed to be a supremely scientific system. And so this kind of ideology, which is really 19th century, became part of the culture of science, and it's very hard for scientists to break out of it. I mean, my hope is that the time will come when scientists feel free to talk about what really interests them and come out of the closet, and then the whole scientific world would look completely different.
This week on London Real, we have astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I wake up every morning astonished that an astrophysicist can have 1.7 million Twitter followers. The cosmos is anything where it's a frontier of human knowledge of how the world works. There's so many forces that want to deny a scientific truth just because it conflicts with their ideology. I thought of myself, because I could wrestle, as sort of a defender of geeks. There is no teacher in any time in my life, from kindergarten through 12th grade and beyond, who ever would have said, he'll go far. And the act of finding out is the lesson, not the lesson itself.
On Sunday, London Real presents Neil deGrasse Tyson, Cosmos.
I'm happy to report that there's an appetite for the cosmos out there.